Carolyn, welcome to Creative X Technology. Tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're here today.
Hi, I'm Caroline Levere. Thank you so much for having me. I am the CEO and co-founder of Grapevine AI. We are a performance creator whitelisting business. We work with a few hundred brands, primarily in the direct-to-consumer space, producing content for them to whitelist for new UGC authentic creators. I just sold my business to New Engen earlier this year, and so now I'm a part of the broader New Engen family.
Congrats on the sale. That's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about the intersection of creative and technology. And you said creator content. And so to me, that always leans authenticity, but advertisers also want scale. And those goals don't always get along. So how do brands scale creator content programs without sanding off the authenticity? I think that really matters to them.
Yeah. Like you said, authenticity really is number one in being able to relate to your customers. So in my opinion, it's all about the types of creators that you use and being diverse in, what they look like, who they are, what their backgrounds are, the personas that they identify with, diverse in their audience following. So it's not all, the influencers with 2 million followers, because then you are going to lose authenticity. And so I think it's important to touch creators at all parts of the funnel and creators that speak to all of your various personas, because the creative really is the thing that's going to be doing the targeting. And so letting the creators also speak authentically to who they are and why they like the product.
I love when we talk about what works, but I think it's equally important to talk about what doesn't work. So what's the fastest way for brands to accidentally make creator content feel less authentic?
For me personally, my opinion is making it really scripted.
Okay.
And being really forceful with what the creator is saying. The way that we handle briefs is we're saying, hey, like these hooks, you got to hit the hooks. But for the testimonial or, problem solution type content, like speak authentically to you. And so when the brand starts putting really strict guidelines around what they're saying, really strict about what things look like, what they're wearing, things like that might make the creator come off as less authentic and might not make them feel like themselves, when they also then try to make the content feel really branded. Mm-hmm. So when they're using branded font and overlays and, logos and having it just look overly branded, you want it to look and feel like the creator. That's why we're using them.
You hired them for a reason.
Exactly. Let them do the things that they know how to do. It's like when we have brands that are like so particular about these tiny little nuances with the creator, like that's when the content fails.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's great advice for our audience here today in terms of like thinking about, you chose this person or this type of content for a reason. Like, let it breathe, let it be its thing. Of course, it's branded, you're paying for it, all the things that go along with it, but you're using that person for who they are and what they've done historically. Yep. Don't force the function.
Exactly. Like you picked the creator for a reason. Let them have the creativity that has gotten them to where they are.
You mentioned your former company, Grapevine.ai, which you were the founder of and recently sold it. I'm just going to indulge a little bit here because AI is in the name of the company.
Yeah.
A lot of the conversation that we're having today around creativity and around AI is, things that weren't ever possible are now possible or within grasp of the of people who are leveraging these tools. If we're sitting here, and I'd be remiss to say something as far down the road as 2030, but if we're sitting here in the future, what's something that will be completely normal, that sounds completely unrealistic today?
Such a good question. I'm so bad at thinking about the future.
It's too hard today.
It's like, I swear it changes every minute. There's a period last year where I was like, creator content's done. It's all going to be AI.
Right.
Like, we're done with using real creators, like Grapevine's going to not exist. And I can't emphasize how differently I feel from that today, a year later. Back like a year ago, I was wrong about what I thought was going to happen this year. I think it's going to ebb and flow and have these waves where we take a lot of steps forward and then we take some steps back and that AI pendulum pulls back a little bit. Like I think it's also going to be very brand dependent, but things that I think will feel normal that don't today is using AI to do literally every part of the funnel, every part of sourcing the creator, helping with negotiations, helping with like them posting, the editing. But I think that a lot of the content, like you might have edits that are AI, and using their likeness to produce AI versions if they said something wrong or to, look, but we're already heading in that direction. I think that's going to continue to be really normal. But my belief is that you still to relate to the consumer and still to have that authenticity. And especially in certain like more sensitive product lines, like you're still going to have the real person that is the creator at the end of the day.
So I know this is something that we see a lot with the open web, with connected television. You see brands who are leveraging AI to gain some of the scale relative to things like translation or making something more appropriate from a global market perspective or in language from a global market perspective. AI has definitely reduced a lot of the barriers there. Is that something that in the creator economy is a topic of conversation? I mean, I can see it towing the line on authenticity if you have a creator and then you're using, generative models to translate that creator or redub that creator's lips. Is that part of the conversation today, or is that like off the table?
Yeah, that is with some creators. I would say we're doing it more on edits. If they filmed something that wasn't quite compliant and we want it to be edited to be a little bit more compliant. We don't want to have to do a full reshoot. Yeah. But that is also a conversation that we have to have with the creator and make sure it's something that they're comfortable with, because you don't want these creators now to have AI robots of them all over the internet.
Sure.
But that's probably the extent in which the conversation that we're having it is in these little ways or in scrubs. Like if there's a stain on their scrubs, if they're a doctor, or one of our clients wanted the color of the scrubs to be different. You can't make this shit up. In that example, again, we would go back to creator and make sure, but it's because for us, the creators are whitelisting it and the ads are all running from their handles. Yeah. Ultimately, they need to feel comfortable with everything we're doing. Otherwise, we're going to turn them off from this industry entirely.
That's the part of the reason what drove the question was like, I'm curious more on what you're seeing from a trend perspective, where you're seeing people kind of resisting or bumping up against the edges versus, oh yeah, you can change the color of my jacket. I'm cool with that. Like, it's fine.
Things like that, they're totally cool with. I think we're like, hey, we're going to do
Don't
this.
change the words that are coming out of my mouth.
We're going to do
too
this
much.
whole other script. Now that we have your light, now that we know what you sound like and what you look like, we're now going to recreate you for a whole nother script with the same brand maybe, but like a whole different angle. I think that would be like a solid no from these creators, which I totally understand. And by the way, I wouldn't want to do that.
It's valid. No, it's fair. I appreciate you talking about the adoption of AI as like a pendulum that maybe, goes too far in one direction and has a correction.
Yeah, exactly.
Has to come back. We're not going to find those edges until we make mistakes. But they don't become permanent unless if you don't learn from them. So
like, don't ask for forgiveness. Like make the mistake.
Yeah.
Like don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness.
And I think that's a perfectly normal part of the creative process. In terms of, building, developing, creating a voice, doing things that you need to do to understand how the market is going to respond to it. And if the world's greatest artists existed and never showed anyone their work, did they actually exist? And so without the response from the market, you don't know how you're moving, I guess, is a good place to talk about that.
Yeah. And so I really think it's, like you said, going to be this pendulum. Like we're going to take some steps and then I think we're going to end up like last year, I thought we were taking steps really rapidly. Yeah. Where's all content being produced by AI. And now I think we've backed off that a little bit. And I think we're going to kind of keep moving forward and back and forward and back. And like you said, we're going to learn what the consumers are comfortable with, because that's ultimately what matters at the end of the day as marketers, is we want to make the consumer want to buy a product. And so we're going to learn from them.
And consumer comfort is one of those things, and we're going way off script here. Consumer comfort is one of those things that also changes based on who that consumer is.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that like demographically we see, older audiences consume media in very different ways than younger audiences. And if you look at the future consumer of somebody who's, Gen Alpha, their level of comfort around, generative creative is going to be way different than somebody my age, who is seeing something and I go, yeah, I know that's AI. Exactly. Does that turn me off from buying the product? Maybe, maybe not. But I think as demographics change and as consumers change and consumer patterns change, like that comfort is also going to move. Yeah. How are you preparing for that next generation of consumer in terms of the kinds of content you're guiding your creators to make? Are there rules?
That's a great question. A lot of it that we're doing is starting to tap into different types of trends. And so pushing the boundary a little bit there. Okay. And using our team and using our creators to test that. If there's a trend that we see taking off with like the young, why is that trend resonating? We try to understand why is that trend resonating? What is it about it? And then how do we use that? So right now, like one thing is like a really crazy cup. Maybe it doesn't quite relate. And maybe that's
6, 7.
Yeah. Like what? Like I still, someone please explain to me what that means. But you know what? You're going to get someone's attention.
Couldn't tell you.
And so like, is that the thing that's AI? And then it gets into something real. It's also going to depend on the type of creator that you use. When we work with creators that are younger, that are, 22, what they're comfortable with doing, what they're comfortable with saying, what they're comfortable with their content feeling like is really different than the creators that we work with that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And by the way, at least this is with our clients, they want that older demographic because it's higher LTV for them to tap into those types of audiences. And so we find that a lot of our creator network has started gravitating towards probably like 30s and 40s plus. We have a lot of millennials.
I mean, consumer patterns, if consumer reporting is to be believed, like that's the current biggest buying group.
Exactly. Yeah.
It may shift in the future as younger audiences start to age into those income brackets.
Or else you need to make the content that appeals to the younger audience. And we have a client right now that we're working with, and it's for like teenage boys. We need to make the content that both appeals to the moms of these teenage boys, but also to the teenage boys themselves. Because the teenage boys, like when I was younger and I would see a commercial on Nickelodeon and the infomercials for every product. Mom, I need to buy that. I need to buy it. My mom would buy me none of it. But I wanted everything that I saw in the commercial. But it's they're just not seeing it on commercials these days. They're seeing it on Instagram. Or they're seeing it on TikTok.
That's something that we're talking about, in terms of marketing and connecting with a consumer and then having that consumer drive the purchase inside of their home. What's one thing about human creativity that technology is never going to be able to replace?
It's almost exactly what you said. It's the element of the creative being from a human. I think at the end of the day, humans know what a human wants to see and what to next. I think that you can use technology to replace like a lot of the production, some of the ideas and things like that. I think that you could give technology, like, here are things that I like, give me iterations in it. Tell me what's different. Tell me how I can build off of this. But at the end of the day, I do think that it all starts with the human knowing how to use the technology. And I think it's the human's discernment also of what it produces. And so I think there's this huge level of human intervention that's really needed to understand, first of all, to control the technology, and second of all, to understand, hey, I'm the consumer. Like, what do I want to see? What relates to me?
It's fair. I always think about use these things as tools, and an artist or creator is going to leverage the tools better than somebody coming in from the outside who just says, here's a new thing for you. Or the next big thing.
And our creators are not using AI. We have, creators maybe that are doing written articles or using AI, but the ones that are doing like, the raw photo and video footage, that's all that.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate the conversation that you had. And thanks for that.
Thank you so much.
Joining us.
This was great.
You're listening to the Media Ocean Podcast Network. For more of our shows, visit www.mediaocean.com/podcasts.